What would you do if you married someone, only to discover they already had a whole family somewhere else? Before we begin, please remember to like this video and subscribe for more powerful African stories. In a small village deep in the eastern region of Ghana, where the morning mist curled around the hills and roosters argued with dawn, there lived a woman everyone called Serwa. To the villagers, she was a wife and a mother. To her husband, Kojo, she was once his answered prayer. To her 2 children, she was Mame, the woman whose laughter had once filled their little clay house. But to herself, Abena had become something else entirely, a trapped bird. She woke up every day before the sun, swept the compound, fetched water from the borehole, cooked for Kojo, prepared the kids for school, and still had to smile politely when his mother came to inspect everything she did. It wasn't that Kojo was a monster. He wasn't a drunkard. He didn't beat her. He was just small. Small in vision, small in courage, small in the space he gave her to breathe. Whenever she mentioned doing something more with her life, learning a trade, going to Accra for a short time to sell goods, he would say, "Abena, what else are you looking for? You have a husband, you have children, you have a roof. Is that not enough? City life is for people who like trouble." It was always enough for him. It was never enough for her. On Sunday afternoons, when the children were asleep and Kojo snored lightly on the raffia mat, Abena would sit alone outside and watch the Accra-bound buses roll by on the distant road, dust trailing behind them like dreams. She imagined herself in one of those buses, looking out at the villages passing by, her past shrinking, her future opening. But thoughts like that were a sin in their world. A mother didn't dream of escape. A wife didn't think of leaving. Still, the thoughts came, and they stayed. It started with a fight so small that if you asked anyone the next day, they would not remember what caused it. Kojo's mother had come by that evening and made her usual comments. "Abena, this stew has too much oil. When I was young, we knew how to cook for our husbands. Why are the children's uniforms not ironed properly? Kojo, you need to monitor your wife. These days, women are becoming stubborn." Abena stood by the cooking fire, her hands still, her heart burning. She had swallowed insults for years, but something about that day felt different. Later that night, after his mother left, Kojo repeated some of her words, as if he had been programmed. "You should listen to my mother. She knows what she's saying. You are my wife, you must be humble. Don't start giving me problems." That word, problems, shook something inside her. "So all these years, I've only been a problem," she whispered. But Kojo had already turned his face to the wall, ready to sleep. He didn't see the way her eyes changed. He didn't hear the silent decision forming in her heart. At midnight, when the moon sat high and pale in the sky, Abena quietly folded 2 dresses, a wrapper, a blouse, and tucked them into a small black bag. Her children lay on the mat, limbs tangled in innocent sleep. She knelt beside them, stroked their hair, and bit her lip until it bled to stop herself from crying out loud. "I'm sorry," she whispered into the darkness. "One day you will understand. Or maybe you won't. But I can't die here, piece by piece." She looked at Kojo one last time, his back turned, his breath slow and even. Then she slipped out of the house, opened the wooden gate, and stepped into the night. By dawn, she was on a bus to Accra, the city that swallowed people whole and spit them out as either stories of success or warnings. She didn't leave a note. She didn't send a message. In that moment, running felt like the only way to breathe. Accra hit her like heat to the face. The noise at Kaneshi, the shouts of trotro mates hanging halfway out of vans, the smell of fried fish and exhaust fumes, the endless stretch of faces, some tired, some hungry, some determined. Here, nobody cared who she had been. Nobody knew she was once somebody's wife, somebody's mother. She decided that day, Abena Serwa would not exist in Accra. Here, she would become Sefakor. She first stayed with a distant cousin in Odorkor. The cousin was already hosting 3 other relatives, so there was barely enough space or peace. But Accra was not a place you entered comfortably. You survived first, comfort came later, if at all. In time, she found work in a small restaurant as a server. She worked long hours, her feet aching, her body sore, but she felt something she had not felt in years. Possibility. People came in every day. Drivers, bankers, mechanics, market women, students, and sometimes men in neatly pressed shirts who smelled like imported perfume. One of those men was Kwesi Mensah. Kwesi was a civil engineer who spent his days moving between construction sites and offices. He ate at the small restaurant because it was close to one of his projects. The first time he saw her, she was wiping down a table, her movements tired but graceful. She thanked him when he paid. Her voice was soft, like a song sung from far away. On his third visit, he asked her name. Sefa Kaur, she replied, not missing a beat. He smiled. You're you? She nodded. It was easier than explaining that names can be borrowed like clothes. From that day, he always chose her side of the restaurant. He joked with her, asked about her day, and sometimes slipped an extra CD onto the bill. He liked that she didn't flirt loudly like some others. Her quietness intrigued him. Slowly, she learned bits about him. He lived alone in a 2-bedroom apartment at later Biokorshi. He had no children. He had been engaged once, but the relationship ended when his ex left for the UK and never returned. So we are both people who were left, he said once with a sad smile. Maybe that's why I feel calm when I'm around you. The words cut her like glass. She almost dropped the plate she was holding. He was the one who got left behind. She was the one who did the leaving. But she swallowed her guilt and learned to smile. In a city where everyone was chasing something, Kwesi was a rare kind of man. He didn't drink heavily. He didn't brag. He worked hard, went home, and on weekends cooked his own food. When he finally asked her out on a proper date, she said yes. They went to a small place at OSU, sat under hanging lights, and ate jollof rice while he told her about his dreams. I want to build a house for my mother back in Cape Coast, he said, and one day I want to come home from work and hear little feet running. The mention of little feet made her throat close. She also had children somewhere, 2 of them, with her eyes in Kojo's nose. But here she was a single, unmarried woman. At least, that's the story she allowed to grow. Soon his friends met her. His mother heard about her. Everyone liked her. She is humble. She is respectful. She looks like a wife. Kwesi asked her to marry him after a year. When he knelt with a ring in his hand in their sitting room decorated with balloons his friends had arranged, she almost said no. The weight of her past pressed so heavily on her that she thought the ceiling might collapse. But she looked at him, this man who had done nothing but treat her kindly, and fear shouted louder than guilt. Fear of being alone, fear of going back, fear of being judged if she told the truth. So she said, yes. The room erupted in cheers. They held an engagement ceremony. The pastor prayed. His family came. Her people were a hired elderly couple the restaurant owner arranged, pretending to be her aunt and uncle. The lie became official. In that moment, God, who sees all, must have gone silent. Not because he didn't care, but because humans often choose their own storms. While Sefa Kaur was smiling in Accra, wearing her engagement beads, another story was unfolding in her village. Kojo had gone almost mad with confusion the week she left. He had searched for her everywhere. They checked relatives in nearby towns. They asked drivers, pastors, traders. No one had seen her. For months, he refused to believe she had gone for good. Maybe she was kidnapped, he said. Maybe something happened to her on the road. People whispered behind his back. A woman doesn't disappear like that without reason. Maybe she was tired of him. Maybe there was another man. The whispers tore him apart. His children, Ya and Akosua, asked every night, Papa, when is Mommy coming back? He always answered, soon, but soon grew into a year. Then 2, then 5. Kojo became quiet. He poured himself into his children and his farm, but he never remarried. He held on to a simple, painful sentence. I will not give another woman my place when the one I chose is still alive somewhere. In Accra, Sefakor and Kwesi were now Mr. and Mrs. Mensah. They moved into a modest but comfortable apartment. Kwesi bought her a fridge, a gas cooker, and later, with time, a small shop near Nyamakai where she sold provisions. He would come home tired at the end of the day, drop his bag and shout, "Madam Shop Owner, I'm home!" She would laugh, wipe her hands on her cloth, and bring his food. Sometimes when she looked at him sitting on the couch, watching the news and complaining about politics, her heart would twist. He doesn't deserve this lie, she thought. But how do you confess a lie that has become your whole life? 2 years later, she gave birth to a baby girl they named Nana Adwa. When she held that child, something inside her shattered and healed at the same time. She remembered the first time she held Yaw, how small Akozua's fingers had been when she was born. She had left 2 lives behind. Now she was holding a third. Guilt clung to her like a second skin. Some nights after breastfeeding, she would stare at her baby and whisper, "I pray you never have to pay for my sins." But life is not a story where sins disappear because tears fall. It was a normal Saturday morning when the past decided to knock. The sky was clear. Laundry flapped on the line. Nana Adwa sat on the floor playing with bottle tops. Kwesi was inside fixing a faulty socket. Sefakor was in the kitchen stirring light soup. Then came a knock at the door. Firm, not urgent but certain. "Please check who that is," she called out. Kwesi wiped his hands on a cloth and went to the door. When he opened it, he saw a man in village clothes, slippers dusty, shirt faded, and 2 children beside him. The boy was around 12, the girl maybe 10. All 3 of them looked like they had traveled far. Their faces were worn, their eyes tired but determined. "Good morning," the man said. "Good morning," Kwesi replied. "Yes, can I help you? We are looking for someone," the man answered. "Please, does a woman called Abena Serwa live here?" Kwesi's brows furrowed. "No, you're at the wrong house. No one like that lives here." The boy stepped forward. "But they said she changed her name. They said here they call her Sefakor." At that moment, a wooden spoon slipped from inside the house and clattered loudly onto the floor. Kwesi turned. Sefakor stood in the doorway of the kitchen, her face drained of color, eyes wide. The world went quiet. The man looked at her. The boy looked at her. The girl looked at her. The boy's voice shook. "Mame." And that was when the life she built in Accra ended. Not with a storm, not with shouting, but with one word that carried 5 years of abandonment. Mame. Shattered. Her legs gave way. The pot almost fell from her hand. She gripped the wall to steady herself. Kwesi looked from her to them, and from them back to her, as if his brain needed extra time to connect the pieces. "What is going on?" he whispered. The man stepped inside slowly, removing his hat. His voice was low. "Abena, or Sefakor, whichever you call yourself now. So you're alive." The children's eyes shone with tears that refused to fall. Kwesi turned to her, his heart already racing ahead of the truth. "Sefa, who are these people?" he asked, his voice thin. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Her body shook. The room felt too small for all the secrets it now contained. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Finally she whispered, they're my family, my children, my husband." The word husband bounced off the walls like a curse. Kwesi's face did something she had never seen before. It crumpled into a mixture of disbelief and revulsion, like someone who had accidentally swallowed poison. "You're what?" he asked quietly. She sank to the floor, holding her head. "I'm sorry," she cried. "Kwesi, please, I was going to tell you. I didn't know how. I didn't know when." The boy, Yaw, stepped forward. His voice was sharper now. "You didn't know how to tell him you left us like thieves in the night?" The girl finally cried out, a sound like something tearing. "Mama, why did you leave us?" The baby in the corner began to fuss. confused by the rising storm. They all ended up in the sitting room. Kojo on one chair, his shoulders stiff. The children close to him. Kwesi on another, barely able to sit still. Sefakor on the floor, her knees on the tiles, hands wringing, eyes swollen. She told the story, piece by piece. How she felt trapped, how she felt small, how she felt unseen, how fear and frustration had grown into a monster that whispered, "Run." She spoke of the night she left, of Accra, of changing her name, of wanting to start over. She didn't excuse herself. She didn't paint herself as a hero. She only told the truth. "I was wrong," she sobbed. "I was selfish. I was a coward. I thought if I started a new life, the old one would disappear. I never stopped thinking of you, but I did nothing. And that is my sin." Kojo's jaw tightened. Yaw stared at her like she was a stranger, which, in some ways, she now was. Akosua clung to Kojo's arm. She had dreamed of this moment for years, of seeing her mother again, but not like this. Not with another man in the house, not with another child on the floor. Kwesi let her finish speaking. He listened quietly, and with every word, something inside him broke and hardened at the same time. When she finished, there was a silence so thick it felt like sound itself had died. Then Kwesi stood. He didn't shout. He didn't curse. His voice was slow and cold. "So, I married a woman who was already married." She flinched. "I sleep beside someone's wife every night." Tears spilled anew. "I have been carrying another man's wife to my family events, to my mother, to my friends, telling them, 'This is my wife.'" His eyes filled with tears, but his voice didn't shake. "Do you know what you have done to me?" She crawled toward him, grabbing the edge of his trousers. "Kwesi, I'm sorry. Please. I was going to tell you. I wanted to, so many times. I was afraid you would leave me. I didn't want to lose this life. I didn't want to go back to that old one." He jerked his leg away as if her touch burned him. "You should have let me choose," he said, voice tight. "You stole my choice. You used my heart as hiding place for your secret." He looked at Kojo. "My brother," he said bitterly. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Kojo nodded once. His eyes were sad, not angry. "I can see you are not the problem here," he replied quietly. "The day I heard she might be in Accra, I prayed I would find her happy somewhere. Even if she had started a new life, I just wanted to know she was alive. But I did not expect this." He turned to her. "Abena, we buried you in our minds," he whispered. "You became a ghost in our house. Our children cried for you. Yaw stopped asking for you at age 10. Akosua used to talk to your old cloth like you were there. You did that to us." She sobbed harder, her forehead pressed to the floor. "I know," she choked. "I know." For days after that confrontation, the house became a battlefield of silence. Kojo and the children stayed in a cheap guest house nearby as they tried to decide what to do. Kwesi moved like a ghost. He went to work but forgot things. He stood at construction sites and stared at nothing while workers waited for instructions. His friends tried to talk to him. He brushed them off. At night, he slept on the couch, his body turned away from the bedroom where she lay awake, listening to his quiet crying. The baby, innocent and confused, crawled between rooms, senses the heaviness but not its cause. One night, she knocked softly on the bedroom door where he had retreated. "Kwesi, please, let me talk." He opened the door and leaned on the frame. "Talk," he said flatly. She held her hands together like someone begging for rain. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I failed as a wife, as a mother, as a human being. I can't undo what I did. But please, don't let this destroy you. Don't let my sin become your grave." He stared at her. "You're asking me not to let your sin destroy me," he said slowly. "But it already has. They say people die many times before their bodies stop breathing." Kwesi's first death was the day he discovered she had another family. His second came quietly, like sleep. One evening, he didn't come home from work. She called his phone. No answer. Hours passed. Her heart hammered as she dialed and dialed. Finally, around midnight, A number she didn't recognize called back. A voice she didn't know asked, "Are you related to a man called Kwesi Mensah?" Her knees weakened. She whispered, "Yes." The voice replied, "Please come to the Korlebu Teaching Hospital." The world tilted. She arrived shaking, heart pounding, eyes burning. They led her to a bed where a white sheet lay over a body. Her breath caught in her throat. "No, no, no." When they pulled back the sheet, she saw his face, peaceful, too still. They said he had been found near the seaside at Jamestown. He had gone there alone. No one knew exactly what happened. Maybe he slipped. Maybe a wave dragged him. Maybe he walked into the water because his mind was too heavy, his heart too tired. The ocean took him either way. When his mother came to the mortuary and saw him, she clung to his body and wailed, "Kwesi, my son! This is not what I prayed for you. This is not the wife I asked God to give you." Her words sliced Abanesfakor into pieces. Kwesi was buried in his hometown near Cape Coast. At the funeral, some people whispered, "The woman killed him. This is what happens when you marry a woman you don't know. City marriage. You never know what you are marrying." She stood at the graveside, holding her baby, choking on a grief she had no right to express loudly. Inside, she was dying, but she knew many would say, "Good, you deserve it." After the funeral, Kojo came to see her. They sat on a bench outside her small apartment. The city moved around them, trotro horns, hawkers, children laughing somewhere. None of it reached them. He looked older. The children stood at a distance, not sure how close to stand to the woman who had broken and then broken again. "So what will you do now?" he asked quietly. She stared at the dusty ground. "I don't know," she whispered. "Everywhere I turn there is a grave, the grave of the woman I used to be, the grave of the man who loved me, the grave of the mother my children needed." He sighed. "Abina, I didn't come to punish you again," he said. "I came to tell you that we will go back to the village." Her heart lurched. Do you want me to come?" she asked, voice shaking. He looked at her with eyes that had learned to build walls. "I brought the children to find answers," he said. "I didn't bring them to start another war. You have another child now. You have a life here. Our children, they are hurt. They see you, but they don't know you anymore." She swallowed hard. "So, this is goodbye." He looked away, then nodded. "You chose that 5 years ago," he replied softly. "Today is only the day the consequences arrived." Ya and Akosua came closer. She reached out to touch their faces, but they stepped back slightly, not cruelly, just honestly. "Mame," Ya said, his voice quiet but clear. "I used to hate you so much. I thought if I ever saw you again, I would scream. But now, I just feel tired. I don't know who you are. You have another life, another child. You are far." Tears blurred her vision. "I love you," she said, voice breaking. "I know I have no right to say it, but it's the only truth I can stand on." Akosua looked at her with eyes too old for her age. "You left us once," she whispered. "Please, don't promise anything again." The four of them stood there for a long moment. A family by blood, separated by choices. Then Kojo took the children's hands and walked away. She watched them go until the road swallowed them. She didn't call out. She didn't run after them. She knew some distances, once created, could not be closed by simple apologies. Years later, people in that neighborhood would speak of a quiet woman who ran a small provision shop with a little girl by her side. They said she rarely laughed. They said sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, she would stare at the sky for a long time as if expecting someone to come down from it. They said she was good to everyone, too good. She didn't gossip, she helped neighbors, she gave more than she had. But her eyes never truly smiled. Some nights when the street was quiet and her child was asleep, she would sit outside and talk to the darkness. "Kojo, I'm sorry." "Ya, Akosua, I'm sorry." "Kwesi, I am so, so sorry." The wind never answered. The past never rewound. In this life, you can run from many things. You can run from a village that feels too small. You can run from a marriage that feels like a prison. You can run from the eyes that know your history. But there is one thing you can never outrun: the truth. Truth is patient. It walks slowly. It takes its time. But one day, and that day always comes, it will knock on your door, sometimes wearing the face of the children you left behind. And when it comes, whatever you have built on lies will start to crack. Abina thought she could create a new life by abandoning the old one. In the end, she did not get to keep either. She lost her first family. She lost her second. She lost the man who loved her openly. She lost the children who had once looked at her like she was their whole world. She remained with one thing only: regret. Should Abina have confessed earlier? Did she deserve forgiveness? Share your opinion below. And please like and subscribe before you go.